Hi, everyone. I wanted to welcome you back to my chat with Bill Goldstein. This is part two. Definitely excited to share this one. I wanted to make time for what I knew would be a deep dive automotive discussion, and I'm thrilled to also share an amazing look into Bill's koi pond hobby. I'm your host, Wesley Smith, and you're listening to the Standard Age Podcast.
Hey man,
What's happening, sir?
here I didn't mess up.
No, it's all good, dude. How are you doing, man? How's your week going?
My week's going great. I'm busy like never before. We're
Right.
getting ready for Nashville, so a lot
Yeah.
of stuff going on with that, and this whole tariff situation is not helping, and you don't want to be building in the middle of this uncertainty. And a lot of raw materials are coming from out of the country, and when
Mm.
you're doing such a huge project like we're doing, expense wise, a small fluctuation in price either way, well, not either way, up, really affects things. So it's really hurting us, and I'm losing sleep because I'm worried about opening when we're opening and all that. So
Right.
obviously we're opening no matter what. It's just a matter of when at this point, because a lot of things are in flux.
Yeah.
People not only do they want to not honor prices that they've quoted before, they don't want to re-quote because they don't, they just it's kind of this wait and see.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, I get it. The uncertainty is stressful, no matter what way you slice it. I've done apparently a shitty job of disclosing where my stuff is made because so many people are like, "Hey, what about the tariffs for you?" I'm like, no, I make everything in LA, so
oh
it
nice.
doesn't affect me. And, and so I guess I just need to do a better job of communicating that so that there are no questions. You're in your office there at Walt Grace. I've been in there before. So I do recognize it. Before, I guess, were you at home when we recorded last time?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, I was.
Is this a 997 steering wheel over your right shoulder?
That is a 997. Yes, it's a 997 steering wheel.
Okay.
I When I bought my 997.1 GT3,
Oh,
I'm not a big fan of Alcantara steering wheels.
yep.
Uh, so I bought this, but it took so long to find a perfect one that I just got used to the Alcantara. I also discovered on Amazon these Alcantara sanding blocks where when it gets matted down and it starts feeling gross and dirty look, you literally just sand it with these sanding blocks and it makes it absolutely brand new. So now I have this leather wheel and I don't even need it anymore because I kind of got used to the Alcantara.
Oh, sick. Can you send me a link to that sanding block? Because I was literally listening last night to Matt Farah's podcast, and he was talking about how he has the Alcantara wheel in his I can't remember what it is, a Boxster of some kind. Anyway, he's got I can't remember what he's got, but he was telling Jerry Seinfeld about how he hates Alcantara steering wheels and how he's always like delicately holding
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I was
It's
like,
amazing.
I
I
would
turned
love to
everyone
send.
onto it.
Okay, great. Yeah, if you could send me that link, I'd love to share it with Matt because I think he would find it useful. Let's see. I'm trying to think of where we left off. Honestly, I didn't do my due diligence in listening to our podcast since I edited it because it's been a couple weeks. How did how did cars sort of get on your radar? Was it childhood stuff or was
Oh,
it?
absolutely childhood. So I used to, before I opened Walt Grace, I used to always say I'm the first generation since the Model T not to not be a car dealer. My grandfather, great grandfather, my father, all car dealers,
Wow.
and at the highest level in the Philadelphia tri-state area. So we were kind of like car dealer royalty in Philly. And it's funny though, you would say, oh, so he must have been a Porsche dealer or he must have driven Porsche since I'm such an obsessive Porsche guy. No, actually, my parents were, kind of against Porsche for obvious reasons, or maybe not so obvious, but just, you know, last name Goldstein.
Understood.
Since I was 3 years old, I was playing in the front yard before my parents kind of got successful. We were living in like a row home in Philadelphia where all the houses are attached, and the neighbor next door I remember his name was Panos, and came. I was playing out front with my whatever it was, Team America Super Stunt Dirt Bike, and this Guy Panos comes pulling up in a silver with red interior 73 Targa, and it was 73. I was 3 years old, and I was I ran down what I call a hill. When I go back now and visit, it's like barely a hill. I run down this hill, and I'm like, Panos, what is this? And he tells me, he said it's a Porsche 911 Targa, and it was 1973, so he didn't say the 1973 part, but from that day on, it was like one of those, like Wayne's World. Oh yes, it
Yeah.
will be mine. And it really was, it's been kind of my guiding light my entire life. When it was like most people want to do well, and it wasn't even a status thing. Most people want to do well and have these trophies. For me, I wanted to do well so I could, realize that 3-year-old's dream of one day owning a silver Targa with red interior.
Oh man, that's God, that's so familiar to me. Like that whole story,
Well,
like
Porsche did the ad a few years ago. Well, more than a few years ago. It was a 996 ad. It said, "You see one, you enter kindergarten, you decide to get one," or something like that. I don't know exactly the wording, but it's always it's the kid, the earliest memories. But go on. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
no, no, you didn't at all.
So familiar, and you're going to tell your story.
Oh no, I just that was it. I mean, your story is I feel that so because it was a very similar thing for me. It wasn't about status. It was about I love cars, right? Like it's not, and it just happens to be. And I think I had this conversation a week or so ago where like the stereotypical thing is to own a 911. Well, here's the problem with that is like when you go in to cars and you start driving all kinds of stuff and random marks and random trim levels and no matter who you are, I was watching a video with Dario Franchitti this morning, right, about his car collection.
Right.
He has a Singer in his collection. This guy could arguably have any car he wants. He works with Gordon Murray now, like $4 million cars, $2.2 million cars. He has a Singer. I mean, excuse me, at some level, you're always going to come back to the 911 because the driving experience is just unparalleled. For me, I can't afford to do a lot of that stuff. So I just waited for the 911 I could afford and ultimately the one I wanted. I would love a 997 GT3, don't get me wrong, but the C2S that I do have is going to have to do it for now and I love it, right? We did talk about you in Philly and things before. I'm not sure I ever understood what took you to Florida. Like, how did you wind up in Florida?
Yeah. So my daughter, really, real simple. So her mother, who was my girlfriend, not my wife, lived down here, from Jersey, but went to University of Miami and lived down here ever since. And it was a long distance relationship. And when Sadie, my daughter, was coming along, I thought that I could go back and forth. Like I'll go Thursday to Monday to Florida and be in New York the rest of the week. And it was actually simple for me to do that because the whole time we were dating, we did that.
Right.
It was more than just the traveling. It was, I'd come on Thursday and my little baby daughter was like, "Who's this gigantic guy? Stay away from me, you scary man." And by Monday, when it was time to leave, it was like she was like an octopus clinging to me. "Don't leave, don't leave." So every week it was just so hard to come and to go,
Right.
equally difficult. Difficult when she was rejecting me because she hadn't seen, I was a stranger every week again. And then Monday to leave was just awful. So I ended up selling my agency and moving on down to Florida. It's not my favorite place in the world. I used to joke and say I have to go through hell to be with my angel because it's absolutely, I've been here for 23 years. My daughter's 23. Ironically, she now lives in Los Angeles and I live in Miami. But I've been here for 23 years and I've never gotten used to it.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Being a driver, the plains of Florida, the flat driving and the lack of twisty roads is really, really, grates on you.
Yeah, I come in and out of the cycling phase, and I have friends and customers who've lived in Florida, and they're cyclists, but they also say the same. Like it's just so flat. There's no mountains to climb. There's no hills to do. Um, but what are you gonna do? I mean, it's better than
If I
not being
showed
on a
you
bike.
Yeah, if I showed you the roads that we consider twisty, like you get a car and you like go and drive these roads, these would be the worst roads in North Carolina or Pennsylvania. Like you would use those roads to get to the good roads. And here we're like, oh, did you take it to Seventh Avenue on that one turn over the bridge? On ramps become like the best, the most fun you could possibly have.
Yeah, I love a good on ramp. I know all the good ones in my area, and I seek them out. Honestly, like I'll drive city streets just to use the on ramp to get on that freeway.
I hear you. I
One thing I
flagged the other day.
oh
Getting on
yeah,
an on-ramp in South Carolina. I bought a 2011 Turbo S for my collection,
oh
my personal
sweet.
collection. Bought it in Warrington, Pennsylvania. Shout out to Warrington Porsche. And I drove it back. And the whole way down, I was on back roads and it was incredible. And I got to South Carolina, literally to the border, and all of a sudden it like has me getting on the 95 on ramp. I was like, oh wow, highway for the first time. And I just wanted to see what the car could do. And I was just did a little quick pull. Well, the combination of it being so incredible and not knowing the car, how fast it, built speed. Next thing I know, woo, 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 got pulled over at 135 on an on-ramp.
Wow.
And yeah, South Carolina, no fun.
Did he ticket you or he let you
Oh,
go?
he ticketed me,
Oh
absolutely. Yeah,
shit.
it's sitting right here.
Oh, that's bummer.
Uh,
Oh man. I just a couple weeks ago I drove the 2025 Aston Martin Vantage, which is a twin turbo V8 now.
right?
Same thing. I hope James Lambden isn't listening to this cuz it's his car. But yeah, I punched it, let's say, and I my head was in the headrest for sure. Like it was like, "Whoa. This shouldn't be legal." Well, amazing. I mean,
This is a
that's
DFI engine, motor. This is not a Metzger.
right.
So it's kind of like, do you want to the car to have in the 997 Turbo world, really, and I think even after owning this car for a week, the car that I'm going to ultimately end up keeping in my collection will be the perfect 2009 997.1, affectionately known as the dot 1.5, because it has the Metzger engine, has the exterior styling cues of the dot one, but it has the interior, including the PCM of the dot two.
Dot two. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't researched that much on turbos, honestly. That's kind of a blind spot
Great
for me.
cars. Really, 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 really great cars. Um, I feel guilty because I'm such an air-cooled guy and it's where my passion rests firmly. But man, today I actually thought when I was in the shower, today I'm going to take an air-cooled, then take a 964, and I got in the garage and the Turbo S was here. I just like reached for the keys and halfway to work, I was like, oh shit, I was going to drive a 964. No, it wasn't even a conscious decision. It's just such a great car. Does everything so well.
That's funny. I have a really random question because I'm thinking that obviously when one has multiple cars, how do you store your keys? Are they in a drawer? Are they on a.
It's funny. They used to be in a drawer, and I was just on Etsy one day looking around at stuff, and it recommended this like, 10 hook
Yeah.
thing. And I was like, I'm not gonna have all of my cars in my garage and the keys on display for if someone breaks in. It's like, oh, there are the keys.
Right.
So I always thought that was the dumbest thing, hanging your keys at least where your cars are. But that's what I did. I bought this thing on Etsy, a whim purchase, got it, hung it up, and now my keys are hanging right there for the world to steal. You know. And you don't have to guess which cars they're for. I have color coordinated keychains for all the cars.
Yeah, of course you do.
Of course I do.
That's what more Porsche thing could you do, I mean, that's what that thing's all about. Or just completely contrast. Like I have the Pepita keychain for my black over tan car because it's like the tan they don't really make anymore. They make it in the perforated but not in the regular leather. This is some geeky shit right here.
That's
And because they don't make it anymore, I don't want to use it because like I don't want it to fall apart, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah. When I
So
first got
it's
my Jubilees, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I was just gonna say so it's only on my like spare key. I keep that one on the spare key.
Oh, that's nice. Keychains are like my thing. I mean, that's what I I bought, I've done more transactions on eBay for Porsche keychains over the years. My kitchen drawer is just filled with, the actual flappy, flabby ones, and they have the Porsche crest that isn't glued on.
Yeah.
All the rectangular ones, the crest shaped ones, everything. A lot of, just the fobs, like and I have to go period. So this is a period correct for the Turbo S. This
That's
was
sick.
the Porsche design back then.
Yeah.
Um, but what was I going to say? Oh, when I first got the Jubilees, they don't make a viola metallic or an amethyst crest, and I actually went on Amazon and bought leather dye and masked these things off. It was such a disaster. Arts and crafts, day at the Goldstein residence, but no, it did not. They did not turn out well. It never dried. They were always tacky. They were always gross. But so I have a beautiful solution. I'll text you a picture of what I ended up doing
Yeah, do that.
for all the cars. Really, really cool.
Oh man, that's amazing. Well, you could have you heard about those like pylons that you could put in front of your car? You drill them into your driveway so nobody can drive your car out. So even if they got into your house?
Yeah, of course. I just wouldn't do it. My house is gated and the door,
Okay.
no one's coming. No one's coming to steal my cars. It's just one of those things where I was like, that's so stupid. They have the keys hanging right there.
Right, right,
I
right.
just put my registration and insurance card on the seat for you, you know. But no. It's funny. My daughter sent me something the other day on Instagram, which is an actual little rectangular box with a hook on it, and you put a Hot Wheels car inside, I
Matching your
guess
car.
your
Yeah.
car, and then when you take the key off, the door opens, or vice versa. I forget It's like a spring loaded, so when the key's on there, the door opens. That's what it is. The door opens, and when you take the key, the door shuts, so you
Oh,
know which
that's
car.
so
So
funny.
for me, it's so perfect, but it's just because I'm a geek. But that's really pushing it. And in case you're confused and want to cut time off of stealing my cars, here's a little Matchbox model of which car it is.
Yeah, just so you're aware. Yeah, that's really funny. One thing I love about Walt Grace, and I talked to you only just a snippet about it, is that fair pricing can only ensure a good experience. I feel like that's something that is sort of obvious, but it's not as well. Like, is there anything that you can kind of add color to based on pricing versus an experience?
Um, you know, First of all, we're just really fair. I think the one of the catalysts for, when I was kind of envisioning this idea of Walt Grace, I wanted to be the antithesis of both car dealers and guitar dealers. I had mentioned earlier on the cast that I used to be proud to say I'm the first non-car dealer, you know, generation in my family, and it wasn't due to any other reason than I had been around car dealers since birth, and it's not something I wanted to be. It's to watch they got off on how badly they screwed a customer. Like they'd high
Mm.
five, and it's like, did you hear how stupid? It's like I was like, no, 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 no. I live my life trying to be as good of a person as I could possibly be. How could I walk in and my business become anything but that? So it really wasn't a business strategy. It has become part of the ethos of Walt Grace. That it's going to be the absolute, fairest we could possibly be. I don't have to, get rich off of every deal. As a matter of fact, I will forego the higher profit for the right car for the right person. It's like
Yeah.
I think we've probably talked about that in the past. I really go out of my way to make sure that I feel like we're the stewards of these cars, of these guitars, and it's really important that we make sure it goes to the right person over going for the highest, the
Bitter.
highest.
Yeah. Awesome. So just to understand a little bit about kind of the inner workings of the business as well. Obviously, do you need a dealer's license to do the car thing?
We do, unfortunately. Like I originally said, look, we're going to be a gallery, an art gallery.
Right.
It's, as I discussed before, it celebrates the artistry of both vintage cars and vintage guitars. We were
Hmm.
never going to be a car dealership. We were never going to be a guitar store because those are just bad experiences. And the
Hmm.
idea of such passion pieces, no one needs anything that we sell. So, when it's all about passion, it's all about emotion. So when money comes into play, it almost makes me feel dirty.
Yeah.
always wanted the barrier to entry to never be about the money. It was
Right.
always about it being, the right car for the right person, right guitar for the right person. So, what was the question?
Well, just kind of like do you need a license to do it or
Oh,
not? Like
yes. Okay, right, right,
and
right.
same thing with like the cafe as well, because I mean I'm assuming you got the health department as well.
Oh yeah, of course. So, but, yeah, I went off on a tangent there.
That's okay.
Um, yeah. Well, you wanted me on the show, so
That this is what we get, man. This is
all I got
natural.
is
I
tangent,
like
right?
it. No, bring it.
So, yes. So the point was that it was just going to be this experience in this gallery. But Florida law, and I don't know the laws in other states, if you sell more than 3 cars a year, you're required to have a dealer license.
Oh, interesting.
We're a full-fledged automobile dealer. On the guitar side, believe it or not, we even have a second-hand dealer license for the vintage stuff. So, and then of course, as you mentioned, the cafe is a full, service cafe. Of course, we have food inspectors and all of the classes that all the employees need to have, food safety. We have to have the triple sink, and we have to have hand wash areas. Things like that. So yeah, we
Yeah.
actually had such a, a shining uh, what do you call it? Review from one of the inspectors. The manager of the cafe actually was out of the cafe one day, and I actually had him film it for her and said, "Can you say that to her?" So he said, "Hello, Tina. I just, this is Inspector so and so from the." I wish that every inspection went like this because this is absolutely picture perfect. The cleanliness, the organization, the Tupperware, the markings on the food. So we really take it seriously. Could you,
Yeah.
Walt Grace, you've been here. We do every single thing that we do, to the highest level, whether it's, our cars, our guitars, the quality of our stuff, the honesty that we present them with, all the way down to our food safety and cleanliness. So it's very important to us.
I love that, man. And again, congrats. I mean, I can't congratulate you enough just because it is such an insane experience in such a good way. And yeah, it's a blast. I know watches became a part of the assortment, via Adam, I guess, at Menta, and some others in the past. But you've also done like some collaborations, which I think are really, really rad. I think didn't you work with Chopard at one point, and maybe even
We
FB
did, and,
Jorn?
and it's kind of an on no, just so part.
Okay,
It's really an ongoing relationship that we have. We have relationships at the highest levels at Chopard, and
amazing.
we actually have some projects in the hopper right now that
Really?
I'm not at liberty to discuss, but
Yeah, that's okay.
so like our earliest partnership was with Chopard. They came to us and wanted to do a collaboration on a watch very early on in Walt Grace's existence. First, few weeks that we were open, the Ralph Simmons, the CEO at the time, came in off the street and was like, "We need to do something together." And next thing you know, had his team there, and we were designing watches together and doing launch parties. So it was really great. We had a limited edition Walt Grace vintage Chopard watch, and now with the uh, new CEO Jean-Baptiste, we're working on a really fantastic project together. Which stay tuned, more to come.
Very cool. That's amazing. I didn't think to ask before, but have you ever attended any of the Luftgekühlt shows? Like the
No, I haven't, believe it or not. I'm as down to earth as I like to say I am, and as open as I am, and all that stuff. I also am very, I'm well known for saying it's like I have all the cars that I want, and I don't love other people's cars. It's kind of like kids. I love my cars. I don't want to go to car shows. I don't want to go to Amelia. I go to Car Week in Monterey because, kicking and screaming. But it's just not my thing. Car shows and car events. Occasionally I do. I hope that doesn't come off as being, any way other than that's where cars fit into my life. Like I love to collect, I love to drive, I love to, be in my space with them.
yeah.
And I think it probably goes back to my relationship with Porsche, where it's not a status symbol to me. It's not something to talk about with everyone. It's not a look at me. One of the things I love about Porsche is how under the radar they are. Most people don't know if it's a $40,000 car or a $400,000 car. And then when you take three cars in my collection, and they're all identical cars, but the most expensive one and the cheapest one of the three is separated by almost $1 million because of the
Wow.
color.
Right, right.
But it's people just don't know. So I love that about Porsche, and then it extends into my how I interact with the culture. I'm here all day talking with people and truly, sincerely loving hearing about their cars and talking about their cars and sharing my cars with them. But
Yeah.
to go, and I do want to go. Don't get me wrong. There's certain
Well,
ones that
well,
I do want to go.
okay, so let me pitch you on one idea then, because well, it's a multifaceted pitch, so bear with me. I've been to almost all of them as an observer, as never having owned a car before, a Porsche that is. I finally got mine in November, as you know, and I'm super super stoked on it. It's almost Lufgekot I'm speaking of. I don't know about I've never been to Car Week actually. I've only been to the precursor of it. I've been there up until Sunday before when everything's getting unloaded for the show.
Right.
But all the rest of that stuff that seems kind of hoity-toity, look at me, kind of pretentiousness that can or cannot linger maybe. I don't know. I want to go to Car Week and figure that out. But the cool thing about Lufgekot is really the fact that they do treat these objects like
As
art.
art. Yes.
And seeing them in different environments is what is the most fun. It's less about the this one's rare or this one's mine and more about look at the thing in that place. And
Sure.
the other caveat to this in the pitch is the next one in October is going to be in Durham, North Carolina, so it's going to be way closer to you than all the others are. So, although you would have a valid excuse to see your daughter because they have historically been in Los Angeles, but
Right, right, right. And
um,
now I'm in Los Angeles all the
yeah,
time
yeah,
because
yeah.
of my daughter.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, man. So I'm hoping to go in October. So selfishly, I would love to
I'm gonna
see
go.
you.
When is it?
It's like October 4th, and it'll
My
be in
birthday's
Durham.
October 5th. I'm coming.
Dude, all right. Well, let's go to dinner, celebrate your birthday, and let's do it because it'll be great. We'll get Adam up too, hopefully. But
And I need to get my cars exercised on some North Carolina roads.
run up the 95. Oh, dude, that's a really good idea. I wonder if I could borrow a car in that day and we could like run up into the mountains, like the Blue Ridge.
I have lots of cars. Come down here and drive one up. Do it.
We should do that. We should absolutely do that. 100%. Okay. All right. Well, to be continued.
And maybe Jonathan will come and he'll take one.
Oh,
So
that'd
bring
be
the
amazing.
maybe all three Jubilees.
Yeah, that would be
of
incredible.
95.
Yeah. Um, Tell me about the relationship with Singer Vehicle Design because I'm excited to see how this unfolds. Many may or may not have already heard.
Right.
How did it begin? What can we expect?
How did it begin? Jonathan really is the person who should be on these podcasts because he's the more interesting of the two.
We'll get him on a different episode.
Yeah, and you really should. I mean, he can talk anything,
Yeah,
car wise.
sure.
So uh, I'm not even sure how it began, but it's all Jonathan deserves all the credit. Next thing I know, we're doing an event with Singer, and they're coming here, and we're going to be a dealer, and this and that, and then after that, oh, Rob's coming, and it just happened so quickly, and Jonathan pokes his head in hourly, not even daily, with another like what sounds like a harebrained idea because he's just always thinking and always going a million miles an hour. The beauty of youth and creativity. And one of the head pop ins was like, "Hey, we're going to do something with Singer." I'm like, "What? Oh, great, cool." And it was, and so I really can't take any credit for that. As most things at Walt Grace, Jonathan has such a huge influence on everything that we do here. When we met in person the first time, it was at an event that Jonathan had arranged. I met Adam through Jonathan, and his watch knowledge is really incredible. And so like I said, truthfully, I'm not just blowing smoke. Jonathan should be on this call. But yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
that's how it happened. But what it's become, is really great. And the thing that I treasure most out of all of it, more than the cars and everything, is my relationship with Rob Dickinson now. We just, hit it off famously the moment we met, even before we met. We have so many mutual friends that were, you
Sure.
guys were doing this and that, da, da, da. So when we met, it was already like, you're the most famous person I've ever met because I've heard so much about you, including the last 24 hours. So it's I don't know if you saw the video that Singer actually released. It
Yeah.
was like
Insane. So good.
love letter between the two companies, and we love those guys. Forget the cars, you know, going into it, it was like the cars. Afterwards, it was like, man, those people,
Yeah.
the people at Singer are just such incredible folks, and really, love everyone we've met and have had a great experience with them, and did like I think a 3 or 4 day event here during Art Basel, and we had the cars, and we had a fantastic dinner, and Rob was here, like I said, and it was just it felt like family the moment we all met, and we'll be family forever. So
That's
and we
amazing.
are a referral dealer now. So you can, anyone listening who wants to buy a new Singer, you can call Walt Grace, and we can help facilitate that.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, it's funny you mention it, how the relationships sort of unfold that way, because it's very like not unlike this podcast, really. It's kind of like, let's talk to these guys about their business, let's tell their story, and then next thing you know, it's like, all right, we're having dinner in Durham. Like
Oh, amazing. Yeah, yeah.
it's the best. Like honestly, it's my favorite part about doing this, frankly. Um, what is there a best Porsche of all time in your eyes?
Well, I mean, I would normally say, without hesitation, the 964 era of cars, air cooled it would have to be, and of the air cooleds, having owned, everything from F bodies and Targas and coupes and to cabriolets, starting with SCs, and I had some of the mid-year two sevens. Actually, matter of fact, my first Porsche ever was a 77 Targa 2.7. So having had everything with the exception of a 992, um, that I kind of settled on the 964 as being my all-time favorite Porsche. Well, my all-time favorite, and I never drove one, is the car behind me, the 959.
Ah,
That's the dream. Everything about it, again, because as I mentioned before, Porsche isn't a status symbol to me as much as it's everything about the company, sans the Nazi stuff,
sure,
is
sure.
is all just, it just really resonates with me. And the the balls to build the 959 was just incredible, at a loss. Every car was a loss for the company, but the engineering and can we do this was more important than the profitability of the cars. And here we are, 30 plus years later. That's the car that's still on my wall.
Yeah,
It's literally, and so to me, that's probably the ultimate Porsche of all time. But a 964 is not so far from that. That's the trickle down car from that study, are the 964s.
yeah.
And I mean, the interiors are the same, and the 993, I guess, the twin turbos had a little bit more of influence, but the ABS, the suspension, the
All-wheel drive, right?
all-wheel drive, yeah, everything about that comes from the 959. But I'm starting to get the water cooled bug a little bit, but not so much that I'm a convert or anything, but I have to say that the best Porsche that I have, or the most fun that I have, is my 997.1 GT3.
Oh God.
I did have a dot two, and people say to me, "How did you go backwards to a dot one?" And to me, it's not backwards. Again, if when you're not looking at status, you're not looking at like having the latest and greatest, but the one that kind of stirs your soul. The dot two almost seemed like it was just designed and built for the rich guys. Like it seemed like,
Mm,
oh, the GT3 program, which was really originally homologation, cars that they made, and then they didn't know that they were going to sell the way they sold. And then by the time the dot two rolled around, it seemed like they were making these cars just a little too soft for. No, that's not to say compared to today's cars,
sure.
at the time they were just so refined. And I said, as a designer and someone that spent a lot of time in Photoshop over the years, I said I felt like they took the 991, I mean the 997.1, and brought it into Photoshop and kind of smudged and rubber stamped away any of the rough edges and just kind of
Mm.
made this perfect. I guess in today's world, just applied a filter,
Right,
smoothed
right.
everything out and took away a lot of the personality, in my opinion. Still amazing cars, and I love the shit out of that car. I actually didn't sell it because it was too soft. I sold it because I was scared to drive it. I had, 3,000 miles on it, whatever, and I felt like every mile was depreciating. So I bought
Okay.
a 997.1 with 50,000 miles on it, and it's the most fun I've ever had with my clothes on.
Oh my God.
Dude, the greatest Porsche I've ever had. It's the most fun. It is just every time I get in it and out of it, it's just, getting into it, the anticipation's insane, and getting out of it, it's like you got off a roller coaster and you're like looking for your friend next to you, like, dude, that was fucking amazing. Oh my God, let's go on
Right.
again. Let's do it
Yeah.
again. You
Well,
know, it,
was the turbo you just got manual?
I wish it's a Turbo S, so they only
Okay.
come in PDK.
Okay.
So, it's a great car, and a PDK is an amazing transmission. This is the first generation of the PDK,
Right.
so it's kind of not as refined as some of the later ones. I don't have a lot of PDK experience. The only
Mm.
other PDK I had was my two. I had a 991.1 GT3 that I got rid of immediately because of the PDK.
Right.
Oh, this is where Porsche is going and whatever. And no, no, no. It was a great car, amazing car, just not for me. When you have that sound in your ears, that sound in your ears and that speed and everything, you just constantly are looking for a clutch, looking to downshift, looking to rev match and heel toe and all of that, and it just wasn't there.
Right.
So I really didn't enjoy that car. And then I actually had a Carrera S PDK for a minute, a 991.1 also.
Mm.
But again, figuratively and literally for a minute, went right back to manual. So um, I don't have a lot of experience is was where I was going with that with them, but I do feel like it's a very primitive version of the PDK that I'm driving, and I feel its flaws. I don't know. I assume that it's been refined now in the later cars because everyone sings their praises, and Porsche wouldn't, only make one or two cars now with a standard transmission if PDK wasn't all that, but it's just not for me.
Yeah.
So as much as I love this car, and everyone's like, oh, Miami traffic, and you're gonna love having the automatic. I actually don't. I actually feel like the car lunges. I feel like I was just feathering the clutch and kind of rolling up, and just the way I drive, because you know. To me, driving is driving a manual transmission. So being in this car now, my Cayenne's a different story. It's a Tiptronic and it's a Cayenne, and I think it'd be weird to be a stick actually,
Right.
but the Cayenne GTS Coupe, which I absolutely love,
Oh, cool.
including I don't know if this still stands true because this Turbo S is so quick, but it's definitely, one of the top two fastest cars that I own,
Oh,
faster
wow.
than my GT3. It's unbelievable, that car. But anyway, so I don't know that the Turbo S is staying long term. I'm going to look for a 2009 Metzger manual transmission. There are a handful of dot twos that were manual, and that's it. It's also the last manual turbos ever.
Yeah, exactly. What's like the ideal spec for that car then?
Um,
Color, interior.
Well, I'm just, except for my Jubilees, I'm just a black guy. Like my
Okay.
cars are always black, forever, black, black. So, and I could go silver. I'm over red, believe it or not. My whole life, the ideal Porsche was always silver red. But my last GTS, 991.1 GTS, which was also manual, had the red interior, and I actually got a little bored of it. So I'm kind of over it. I'm back to black interiors. Um, and so black, sport seats, manual transmission. I always disliked the aero kit on the 997 turbos,
Mm.
but I was behind one the other day, and I was like, you know what? I really dig that. So I think I want an aero kit, dot two or the 2009.1.5, 1.5. Um, manual 997 turbo.
I've always loved the 996 C4S with the factory aero kit. I always thought those just look so cool. Um, but again, 996, totally different beast. I'm going to interrupt myself really quick. The photo is black and white of the 959. Is that a Bart photo?
That is a Bart photo. Yes, it
Okay.
is.
Yeah. Okay. Shout out Bart. Um, at any rate,
I saw Bart this week. He's in town with his family.
oh, sick. Okay, cool. I'm dying to get him on the show too, and he and I have talked about it, so hopefully he'll come on.
Oh, get him on the show.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So just a matter of time, it's just a calendar thing.
I'll put in a little plug.
Oh, cheers, man. Um, so have you owned a touring? Have you owned like a modern manual GT3?
It's funny. No, and it's funny. I'm looking now. I started walking. I don't know if you can tell how much thinner I am since last time you saw
You're
me.
so much thinner.
I'm so much thinner. I'm like a skinny legend, right? So I've been walking every morning, and I discovered podcasts. So of course, the only thing I'm listening to are Porsche podcasts, and I was listening the other day to one about how the 991.1 GT3 Touring might be the ultimate modern car. And I believe that it could be possible. If I could get over the proportions of the 991 and all of that, I think that that's probably the next time we speak and you ask me what my favorite uh, Porsche is, it might be a dot one 991.1 Touring because one manual transmission, I've been toying with the idea. I've been searching high and low for like the ideal car would be a 964 body with a GT3, a 997 GT3 engine in it because the revving to 9,000, that is just addictive in a way that I imagine, drugs would be.
Have you heard of Workshop 5001?
I don't, do they do that?
It's an amalgamation of it. I can't remember the exact spec of the engine, but it's like a 4 liter. I think it's a 4 liter GT3 esque engine. I mean, he does all
In,
kinds of
in, in a
stuff.
964.
Yes.
Okay. I know there's a guy in like Amsterdam that
Hmm.
that does that.
Yeah, this guy's in LA, and I went to yeah, I went to his workshop a few weeks ago, and it's yeah, Henry Catchpole did like a really great video of that. Henry's episode on my podcast was a fun one too. I think Henry's just the best. But yeah, the touring thing is kind of, or what about a 911R? Have you ever driven one of those?
I have. I've driven them and I've spent a good amount of time behind the wheel. Cool. I'm not a collector for collector's sake,
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
except for those Jubilees.
But the manual,
No, no, but the manual. But I feel like, if I had an R, I'd be very upset that the Touring came out because
Yeah.
it sans a few little things here and there. It's pretty much the same car.
Yeah.
And I do drive my cars, so I feel like driving an R, the values that they are, I probably would be a little more hesitant, kind of like I was with the 997.2 GT3. I don't want my cars to ever be precious.
Right.
And in the next breath, I talk about how I drive my Amethyst, Jubilee to Publix. So,
Right.
but I don't want to do that. I just can't help myself. So, but yeah, I think ours are super cool, but I think under the radar GT3 without a wing sounds like the perfect spec. And I always dreamt of that. I was
Yeah.
always like, they would just take the stupid wing off. I would get
Right.
one of those.
Yeah, I know. Having just said the 996 with the Aero kit, I'm much more aligned with what you just said. Like I would rather be under the radar, don't look at me, but let me go fast. That kind
Yeah,
of
just the
thing.
sound and just rev that high. You get into the air cooled, or you even get into the turbo, and you miss those high revving engines.
Mm-hmm.
It's just intoxicating. It
Yeah.
really, really is.
Yeah. Um, when talking with Jonathan, he used the analogy, sort of that like a PRS is sort of striving like for perfection, kind of in every way with regards to guitar making, and sort of likened it to a supercar, effectively. Um, he said McLaren was sort of an example. Um, if Gibson, Fender, and PRS were in fact car brands, what would they be?
Wow. Okay, so Gibson would absolutely be Porsche because they inform their modern products by looking back at what they've done. The whole idea of Porsche doing more of what works, less of what doesn't. In the guitar world, it's a little bit different because there's not so many moving parts to change, or
Hmm.
any moving parts actually. But so Gibson kind of nailed it in 1959. That was the perfect storm. They made, the 59 Les Paul, and that's kind of the holy
Grail.
grail
Yeah.
to this day of electric guitars. And Gibson still, for many years, they had the long dark years, from the time they stopped making those in 1960 all the way up until, recent times where they finally looked back and really focused on getting the headstock shapes correctly and getting the logos in the right place. And of course, that doesn't affect the sound, but using the right materials and the right glues and the nitrocellulose lacquers and the unplasticized nitrocellulose lacquers, and, kind of understanding what an aged guitar, um, what aging affects. And I'm one of the people that believes that aging doesn't just affect, the visual, the visuals of the guitar. It actually affects the sound, whether it's the way it inspires you to play, or it's letting the guitar breathe and the wood vibrate more because it doesn't have a hard candy shell of a polyurethane or even a nitrocellulose shell over top of it, kind of holding it. I think the cracks allow it to move a little bit and
Mm.
breathe. And I do think it sounds a little different. So Gibson would be Porsche because they do, you know, more of what works, less of what doesn't, being informed by the past. Fender would be, I mean, I guess Fender would be Ferrari because Fender is always pushing the envelope. They acknowledge their past, but they have permission. Okay, and we saw with the 996, Porsche doesn't have permission to step out of the lines. Okay, no matter how good that car was ultimately, there was no way, there was no winning there because they don't have permission to do that. Whereas Ferrari, they start with a clean sheet of paper every time. So they have permission to kind of push the envelope. You look at a modern Ferrari, there's not much lineage, or visual lineage to the classic, cars of the past. So I think Fender, even though they have the shapes, the Strat and the Telly, they'll think nothing of throwing a Strat pickup in the Telly and calling a Nashville model, or putting a tremolo, a locking tremolo on a Stratocaster, or crazy colors, or different headstock, whatever it is, scalloped fretboards for the Yngwie Malmsteen model. They can do that, and they can come out with new models of amps, new models of guitars. So I think they're very much akin to a Ferrari. And then I think Jonathan nailed it with a PRS. And a PRS and a Taylor are really tied. A Taylor on the acoustic side and a PRS are tied for being the McLaren of the guitar world. And by that, I'm sure Jonathan, said this to you. He's probably paraphrasing my view on this, which is a PRS is the finest craftsmanship. It's the best materials. It's arguably the most beautiful guitar you could buy. The inlay work is second to none. The setups are beautiful. They do fall short a little bit on sound, but you can change pickups. But overall, it's the most beautiful wood, the most beautiful craftsmanship, the most beautiful everything, and they just leave you flat. They kind of have no sensuality or sexuality to them.
Mm.
And I actually said one time to the guys at Paul Reed Smith when they asked me, why don't you want to be a Paul Reed Smith dealer? Um, I said to them, I said, and I said everything I just said to you, how they're perfect this, perfect that. And I hope this doesn't come off as sexist in any way, but I likened it to women. And I said, if every woman was beautiful, then none of them would be beautiful.
Right.
Okay. And the beauty in beauty is finding the beauty, is
Right. Right.
finding what makes one so special and so different. A Gibson, they're each handmade. You could have all the same model, all the same SKU, and out of 10, four of them will be great, six, seven of them they'll all be good, they'll all be great. Seven of them will be really good. Five of them will be really great, and two of them will just grab hold of you and not let you walk out of the shop, without it. And then there's going to be one between the two that you're going to leave, and another one to like, should I have gotten that one? Because they're all, there's going to be like one or two that are just amazing. Paul Reed Smith, And it's all due respect to these guys because everything I said
Sure.
about them is so true.
Yeah.
They're amazing. They also managed to kind of infiltrate the boys club and get in. They're in the same breath always as Fender, Gibson, and Fender and Gibson. They're kind of the third, and there wasn't a third for so long until Paul
Yeah.
did this. So kudos to them, and also to all the players out there that love them. John Mayer can't be wrong. I mean, God. But anyway, they I forget what the hell I was saying.
Well, you were just saying that you just with a Gibson, it's almost wabi sabi, but there's beauty in imperfect. Like everyone's different, right? Whereas like with PRS, maybe they're not so different. They're so consistent. Is maybe the direction you're headed? I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
pretty much you could take anyone off the wall
Right, and it'll be good.
and
Right.
they're all going to be great. It's not
Yeah.
even that they're just good or mediocre. They're all going to be great. But again, I don't want, if I have a great one, I want to find the good one, the great one.
Right. Right.
Air cooled 911s are the same way.
Sure.
Really great ones that are just like, wow, it's the same spec on paper. There's no mods on this thing, but this one just fucking speaks to me. This one
Yeah.
just does it.
Yeah.
So that's where I was going with the Paul Reed Smith. Sorry, just so your listeners know, I'm not completely flighty and lose my train of thought all the time. I am in a glass office, and people are coming to my door over top of my computer, and I'm trying to not be like, "Go away, get away," and try to keep my train of thought at the same time.
No, it's all good, man. That's the power of editing as well, you know. um okay, I want to talk about this epic koi pond that I've heard about.
Ooh, okay. I can talk about koi.
Yeah. Okay, so my understanding is that it was a pond at your house.
Uh-huh.
And forgive me because Jonathan, he and I talk, he's
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not spying on you. This is all
No, no,
via.
no, no, it's fine. It's fine. I do occasionally, I don't tend to post my cars because I feel like that feels or looks like a flex, but my
Mm,
fish, I can't help it because they're just
right.
so beautiful. So if you follow me on Instagram, then you've seen my koi because
Well, that's 90% of it, honestly. And so the interesting thing is my understanding is it started just like as a pond. You made it a koi pond. So I'm dying to know like what the process of that conversion, if you want to call it that, what was that like, and what is maintenance like on something like this?
I'm in a very fortunate position. I'll answer the maintenance part really quick. Typically, a koi pond is a full-time job.
Okay.
You have filtration and you have aeration and you have chemicals and I don't know chemicals, but you have additives that you add to the water and you have parasites that you have to deal with and you have to put salt, even though they're freshwater fish, you have to put salt levels and this and that, to help with the parasites and the bacterias and things like that. I'm
Mm.
very fortunate that where the original owners of my home built this koi pond all the way back in the 30s,
Wow.
they built it. I live on a lake, so the way it's fed before when they had it, it was just fed however it was filled with rainwater or whatever. I never really cared about the pond. I never really looked into the pond, but it started to become kind of cesspool like when I was redoing my home, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna redo this pond because it's kind of gross. I ended up getting digging a well because we're on the Florida aquifer here
Wow.
aquifer. So we dug a well with a pump uh, made for aquatic, applications so it could run 24/7, one efficiently and two without burning out. And you have a little waterfall falling into the pond, from
Recycling. Yeah. Kind
the
of
water
moving.
became crystal clear and beautiful. We dug everything out, and I had this beautiful pond, and I got lily pads for it, with a lily flower. It was gorgeous, and everyone kept saying to me, "You should get koi. You should get koi." And I'm like, I don't want koi. Like koi, fish. No, that's so not me, and I'm so not into it. And like, I need another thing to take care of, and it was funny how it happened. So I had this perfect. The reason I was saying about the filtration. So the the well goes into the pond and it's just constantly flowing. And I built it so it just overflows into the lake all the time. So it's this constant flow of fresh spring water, perfectly pH balanced for koi, luckily.
Right.
just washes out. So it washes out the food remnants, it washes out all the fish waste, it washes out whatever, the lizard waste that, the lizards are constantly shitting in the pond and from over the trees and even the leaves that fall on it. So I have a maintenance-free,
Wow.
almost maintenance-free pond where it's constantly recycling the water multiple times a day. And it's 60,000, oh no, it's 36,000 gallons, this pond. So it's 60 feet by 20 feet wide. It's
Oh my
huge.
God. How deep is it?
Uh, it's
Ish.
uh, it's a ish about 6 feet because I bought wading pants uh, well, not the whole thing, but the deepest.
Right, 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 right.
When I first got into it, I became obsessed. So I bought these like rubber, fly
Fly
fishing
fishing.
pants.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm walking in them. All of a sudden, I go over the top of the pants and just fill with water, and I'm now way down, filled with water in this pond, and it's now like up to my neck instantly. And I have, however many hundreds of pounds of water in my pants, trying in the rubber, holding me down. So I have to like do this whole Houdini escape. So it's definitely close, and I'm 6'3", so it's up to my head,
Oh my
so it's pretty,
God.
pretty
Well,
deep. But
Big shout out to Orvis for making a quality product or whatever bibs you got on.
amazing. Yeah, so it keeps water in as well as keeps it out. So yeah, so then look, it's a boring story. There's no like great story as to how I got into it. I was waiting for a tree nursery to open in Homestead because I was redoing my whole house and redoing the landscaping, and I was killing time waiting for a tree nursery to open up. And I saw a sign that said, fish hatchery, koi fish hatchery in Homestead. So I just went and I called and I told the guy I was coming over, and that was it. I walked out of there with like, I don't know, 5 or 6 fish, and they were American, domestic koi. They weren't anything special. They were solid colors. Now that I know how badly I got rooked that day, I
really.
spent a lot of money on really mediocre fish, and but anyway, I got the bug. That was it. I was on the same way I'm looking for Porsche and looking at guitars. Now my time is equally spent looking for Japanese koi, and I import them. And 99% of my fish now come directly from Japan. Well,
Wow.
Japan via Hawaii, and
So what does a fish cost? Do you buy them as like small and then they get bigger, or do you buy them?
they do grow. They're living and they do grow and they grow huge
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah.
that's what I thought. Yeah.
And the price directly correlates to how big they are, but
Sure.
also the bloodline. So I get fish. I have actual, like a guitar has a certificate of authenticity, and a car has,
Oh my God.
fish. I have fish that say it comes from this fish farm, this bloodline, this age, and everything. And those fish are very valuable. I'm embarrassed to say to your listeners how much I pay for some of my fish, which is something I never in a million, there's literally a million things if you would have asked me 2 years ago that I would have said I would have spent this money on and my time on than these fish.
Last on the list.
But if you look at my personality, I geek out over the little things, and the difference between a $1,000 fish and a $10,000 fish could be the amount of black on it or how it's distributed on their body. If a kahaku has, 3 distinct separate patches of red, it's, the same size, same everything, might have multiple thousands of dollars in difference. The tancho, which is the red dot you may have seen on their head of some of the white fish, like right, like a Japanese flag, depending on the symmetry, depending on where it's located on their head, if it goes into the body of the fish, even though it looks like it's on their head, there's a clear delineation where it needs to be. Um, it it's a $1,000 fish or a 10,000 or a 20,000, or there's fish that are $1 million.
That's insane.
It's
Well,
it's
I
really crazy. And what's really crazy about it is one thing, the most surprising thing I learned as a koi keeper now is that koi is not an ancient Japanese thing. You think
oh,
that it is because you see the tattoos and you see the thing. It's not even a huge part of Japanese culture. It's as niche there as it is here. And it's only about 200 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, Japanese fishermen in the winter months got bored and started, they would eat carp because it was inexpensive food, and koi really are just carp.
Right.
however they did it, I guess they saw some natural color variations, and they started mating those fish and started making, so they're all kind of hybrids, and they're all, the best of my knowledge, I might be saying something a little bit out of line, but I'm pretty sure that they're all just hybrids and crossbred, and now they have a bloodline from those original fish and the different farms, and certain people are known for kahakus, and certain people are known for chalgoys, and certain people are known for whatever.
Wow. So okay, so when you
The
import
story
them,
is what I was looking for.
this is the last question I have on koi, because I am fascinated, and maybe we could again
We can talk offline.
offline. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll start texting about fish now, because now I've got a new obsession.
Tomorrow I'm going to a koi show,
Oh, Jesus Christ, I love it. Oh my
and my
God.
mother's driving down to an hour and a half to come with me. I got her like,
That's it's a family affair.
how are the girls? As my mom, how are the girls? Meaning my two daughters. And then how are the fish? How's
Oh my
Carl?
God.
Carl is my one chow goy that's not doing well right now. He's sitting on the bottom in the corner. How's Carl doing? Any change since yesterday? So it's like my mother, these are my mother's kids now.
Oh my God. Well, how do you go about naming them?
Um, how do I go about naming them? I don't name any of them right away. They all kind of come to their name. I have one that's named Landon.
Okay.
It's Landon. What a cool name for a fish. But it's actually the way a 5-year-old would name a fish. It was when I first got him, he constantly kept climbing up onto the land. So I named him Landon.
Oh, right.
Like he kept, like he would go out, his entire body would come out when he's going for food, and then he'd go back in. So I was like, you're like a land fish. Oh, Landon. So I named him Landon. I have one that my daughter named Belle because it's yellow like Belle from Beauty and the Beast, like her dress. I do name a lot of them from their breed, because as I was learning to remember the breed name, I would name a part of the name so I would remember. Carl is a Chow Goy, but it's just so I remember the C, Carl.
Chow Goy Carl.
Chow Goy Carl. And then Belle is also a Chow Goy, but she's a Jinrin Chow Goy, which means she has like shiny scales. But then I have like Shiro, and she's a Shiro Itsuri, so I would remember that. I lost 3 fish in the mail, and I took a leap of faith to order 3 more from the people that offered to send it to me. So this one of my only butterfly koi, her name is Faith because I took the leap of faith. So like, how do you name anything?
Oh, that's great. That's great.
But I have 73 koi at this point, and they all have names.
Wow. That's crazy. Okay, so when you order them through Hawaii though, like so do you order them from Hawaii, or do you order them from Japan and they just have
So
to
I ordered
stop and
from Kodama Fish Farm, which is a Japanese company, but they have a farm in Honolulu. So they bring them in, they quarantine them
I
to make
see.
sure they're healthy. And I still quarantine the fish. I have a separate quarantine tank that I put them in. You're supposed to put them in for a month. I put them in for a week or so, make sure they look good. I don't want my entire colony of fish or
Yeah.
it dies. So we do quarantine them. So Kodama, where I buy the majority of my fish. I also buy some locally here from Pond Doctors here in Miami, which he also gets his fish in a similar way. But he goes over to Japan and he has them shipped. And there's twice a year that you go to Japan. Um, October being one, the spawning or the not the spawning season, the cultivating season, because they put the best koi, they put them in these big mud ponds, which you would never
Wow.
suspect that that's where they live. They live in these koi ponds, and then they go and they grow with all the minerals and everything in the koi ponds. I mean, in the mud ponds, they grow from like being 6 inches, 8 inches, whatever, to coming out these jumbo koi. And of course, that's how the farmers make their money, based on size and shape, body shape, head shape, and color.
Color.
So
Yeah.
it's a huge art to just picking them when they're the tosoi, the little baby guppies, but they're called tosoi.
That's so cool, man. Well, okay, so architecture we talk about from time to time on the show as well, because I'm a big fan. Is your house, was it a famous architect who designed it originally?
So I don't know if it was a famous architect who did it originally, but it was a famous owner. So if
Okay.
you're familiar with Miami and Florida and Key Biscayne, this area, the gentleman who had my house built and built my house was a guy named Charles Crandon. And if you're ever been to Key Biscayne, it's Crandon Boulevard is the original, um, is the original is the main boulevard there, Crandon Park, Crandon.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so that was Charles Crandon's home. So I imagine he probably had a really good, uh, famous architect design and build his house. I do know that the property itself, it's a 2 acre property on a private lake. And originally, I have the original plot, and it was all just Chaz Crandon. It said on it, and all the homes around it didn't even exist. It was all his property.
Right.
Same time that he built my home, he was also building Fairchild Tropical Gardens, which is a really beautiful um, little gardens that you can walk around, and they have, they teach you about beautiful plants and indigenous species. And so what he did, I guess, was said, two for you, one for me, two for you, one for me, five for you. So my house has all these beautiful mature specimen trees and plants all over the property. So
Wow.
that was a famous kind of, I don't know, I don't want to insult anyone by saying landscaper, but whatever that the art of, you know, that is called. It was definitely a famous person, the same gentleman who designed and built Fairchild Tropical Gardens here.
Yeah, that's amazing. So when you redid your house, did you kind of, was it like a gut reno, or did you just kind of tweak it or restore it or?
I guess I'm still in the middle because it is a gut reno. So when I bought the
Okay.
home originally, I did a gut inside and out renovation. That was in 2012, but I kept the original kind of British West Indies style. So kind of like an island home, looked very Key West style. It had a standing seam roof when I got it, standing seam metal roof and all of that. And I kept the house that way for the really past 12 years. Never really loving it. Not my vibe, not my style. I love mid-century. I love um, you know, Japanese design, which the fish come, perfectly with it.
Yeah.
But I love wood. I love dark colors on homes, and I love garages.
Yeah.
So it's what started as a garage kind of renovation turned into a complete. I mean, you would not. I wouldn't recognize my house if you blindfolded me and did one of those reveals like on those home
Oh, yeah,
improvement
yeah.
shows. I would not know that it's the same structure. There's nothing on the outside that resembles. It had an existing 3 car attached garage that you drove around the house into the side. I kept that original 3 car garage structure, but I built onto it, and now it's a 10 on the floor, 2 in the air. So the 12-car garage that you enter from 4 separate doors in the other side of the house. So it's a
Wow.
completely different view from the front. And then I built a 115-foot carport out front that had to be Category 5 hurricane proof. So it's this huge structure. And if you're building a carport, you don't want a lot of beams. So it's 115 feet with only 3 beams that span the entire thing. So there's a 93-foot span without any beams, so you can park as many cars, as you possibly want under there without having any beams. So it was a marvel, an engineering marvel.
That's insane. So is it concrete? Is it I-beams, or what did they use to create it?
I-beams, it's the large. We actually had to, bring down the largest I-beam, steel I-beam, and then even weld onto it that was in the state of Florida at the time.
Wow.
There was only one, and we had to like make a decision right then and there, like we're going to do this. So the original architectural plans didn't account really for the girth that this thing needed to be. It's 19 inches tall by about 10 inches wide. The front beam, and then there's an 18-inch beam behind it. But it's so big that the original design called for having brake metal wrapped around it, which all the other beams on the house have. And we've still, a year later, have not been able to find any machine that could, do this brake metal around it. So right now it's an exposed gray, not I-beam because they soldered, plates all over it to make it just one solid beam.
Yeah.
So we're trying to figure out a solution now. It looks like we're gonna go into our auto body friends and have them kind of, you know, smooth out this existing beam so it's paint ready, and then have the whole thing electrostatic painted to match the brake metal and the rest of the house, because that's what we have to do. But it's ultimately the house. It's black. It's wood. It has a very Asian feel to it. but just the most beautiful materials, the most beautiful colors, and the most beautiful design. And it's really not many things that I own do I say this is my favorite thing ever. I'm always looking for something else. Like, oh, what that guy has is,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
never mind. This is my favorite house in the world.
Incredible.
We're gonna redo the inside next. We're even doing some additions. Right now, except for the garage, we kept the floor, the footprint of the house. But now I got the bug. Now we're going all out.
Good for you, man. I mean, as stressful as it can be, it's also super exciting. I don't know. It was more or less a gut renovation of this house that I'm in now, 2 years ago,
So
and super stressful. But it's kind of like then you come home and you're just like, oh man, I love it in here. You know what I mean? It's really just becomes an oasis. You know?
I drive through the gate and I just every day I come home. I mean, first of all, I'm like giddy excited to go home. Every day I just can't wait to go home and open the gate and drive through and see the house. And I am not boasting at all. I'm so excited that I actually love my house because I've
Oh, it's
hated it
great.
for so long.
Yeah, man. 100%. Earlier, I had a conversation about how like I'm very self-conscious about what I post online because I don't ever want it to come across as if it's like a tangent of arrogance or some sort of like boast, you know. But on the same note, it's also kind of like I'm I'm just trying to spread joy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is making me feel so great.
Yeah.
But I want to share it with people. It's weird. Like this morning, I just got this, like, I'm sure you've seen the ads on Instagram. This, like, I forget what it's called, yellow something hammock, and I got this little hammock, and I put it between two palm trees, and I sit there every morning with my coffee, and I look out at the lake, and I love it. And I'm so hesitant. I want to share a picture of this because exactly the same reason. I want to share it with everyone, because it's just such an amazing thing. But
Some things you just got to keep for yourself as well. You know what I mean?
I kind of figured out a way to make it not look pretentious and, because it's not meant to be. It's really meant like, oh, I wish you guys could experience, or not that I wish you could experience, I wish you could be here right now and check this out. But just wish you could be here without being here because I wouldn't want anyone to spoil my alone time.
Oh yeah, I'm on your stories now. Hammocking. Hashtag hammocking. Yeah, I love it. Well, honestly, and I think to your point, it's less about I wish you could be here and more about I hope you have something that gives you this joy that this gives me, you know?
Yeah.
We all deserve it.
I typically zoom in on the koi so you just see the koi. So there's not showing how absolutely insanely beautiful my fucking pond is. Because I don't want to be that guy ever. Look at me. You're
Well, you can text me anytime you want because I don't have the space for that. So selfishly, can you just text me the photos? Because I definitely would enjoy seeing them. Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. Just when in doubt. And I'm 3 hours behind. So if it's midnight, it's all good. You know?
Well, no, because I'm doing it in the morning. You don't want to.
Yeah.
I'll wait.
Bill, thank you, man. This was an amazing part 2. I'm so stoked that you were open to doing it. And I'm going to hold you to October.
Yeah, man, please do. Yeah, I really want to do that. Let me know, like let me know in August, let me know in September, just so I know.
Yeah, I'll text Jonathan as well. Let's get him on the show. Let's get Jonathan.
Oh yeah, Jonathan is way more interesting than me. Like whoever listened to this podcast right now is like, I want my money back.
That's not true.
It's all over the place. It's like, who wants to hear this guy? Jonathan is really, amazing to talk to.
Yeah. Well, to be continued with Walt Grace for sure.
Cool, man.
Okay, buddy.
Thank
Bill,
you so
thank
much.
you, man. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
This wraps up this episode of the Standard H podcast. If you like what you heard, I'd love it if you'd share it with a friend or two. And if you have a moment, please rate and review the show as it helps others discover these episodes. It absolutely helps far more than you realize. Shout out to Jensen Reed and Super Beautiful for the theme track. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.